500 feet away from a proposed power plant where it is not only probable they will be impacted by air emissions, generator noise, and potential drinking water contamination, as the power plant would be built over one of our principal water aquifers, but are also at risk for their property values decreasing substantially once this project is built. Benefits? GlidePath is not coming to the town of Ulster to produce any significant jobs for our area. They list 4 in their EAF for what is an unmanned facility. Perhaps that's a number they plan to decrease in the same way they have done with the size of their smokestacks. We understand that this project is being considered because of the very needed tax revenue that it will bring to our town. But that shouldn't outweigh the quality of life impacts and decrease in property investments that this will have on the residents and their futures.
Your
We are
3
not.
minutes is up.
May I continue? I have a little bit more.
Go ahead.
We are not anti-business, and thank you, Mr. Quigley. The citizens living in the town of Ulster support sustainable economic development. We want the opportunity to attract forward-thinking companies who are committed to being good neighbors and creating safe living wage jobs that are in line with the environmentally friendly standards for which Ulster County has been distinguished. As County Executive Mike Hines said in a recent radio interview, there is a notion that if you want to be environmentally savvy, you have to sacrifice financially. It is not true. It only has to be a community committed to getting it done. At the February 15th town board meeting, Supervisor Quigley announced that the town received over 500 requests to extend the scoping public comment period to 90 days due to the complexity and impact of this project. The law supports our request. It states that the applicant and lead agency may, by mutual agreement, agree to extend anything beyond a 60-day time period. Citizens asked respectfully to be represented with what is a reasonable request. Having made yourselves the lead agency in this project, you must remain impartial, and that will not allow you to advocate for us, your constituents, those who elected you into office. Furthermore, at this month's meeting, our town supervisor, angered by a resident asking when we would be notified as to whether or not our 90-day public comment request would be honored, we were told to do your homework, and then he stormed out of the meeting. We are not only doing our homework, but this is a new day in the town of Ulster. We will not allow our elected officials to treat us like outsiders. This is our town, and the citizens in the town of Ulster expect professional leadership, and we have the right and a responsibility to participate. We shouldn't be made to feel like a nuisance for any of you. Tonight, as a demonstration of a temporary lack of confidence in our town board leadership, I now ask citizens in this room to rise for a moment of silent solidarity. Thank you.
That's very inappropriate, by the way. You're talking to the board, not grandstanding.
You're making accusations.
Laura, I've given you some extra
No,
time.
no, no,
Do you
no.
have written comments to submit?
I have written comments.
And they have specific issues related to the EAS.
I've outlined the areas that we'll be looking at, and we'll be submitting questions by March 22nd.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, before she sits down,
That's what leadership looks like.
fine, she can run for supervisor. There is a sign-in sheet. There is a sign-in sheet. We are on number 15 in our list. Are there any other people who wish to sign in to make comments?
Yeah.
Ryan, you're taking the opportunity?
I am, and there's someone ahead of me here too, Mr.
Thank you.
Supervisor.
Now, is there anybody that would like to fill in after Mr. Cahill? Okay, Fred?
Fred Neeson?
Do you want me to bring the sheet up?
No, we'll come down again.
Fred Neeson?
On
On the subject of environmental, it's been covered literally ad nauseum, so I don't wish to cover it. The economic issue has been touched on. But we
Sir,
talked
please
about-
introduce yourself, your name and your
I
address.
said Fred Neeson. I'm sorry, I thought you knew me from prior meetings.
I do, the people in the
Okay.
audience don't
Fred Neeson,
necessarily.
192 Ledge Road.
Thank you.
As far as the economic considerations, they were touched on with the discussion of diminution of value of the real estate for all the contiguous homes. And it's going to be significant, more significant than one would imagine. And we're not gaining anything by way of employment from Glide Path, from salaries to be recirculated within the community or put back into the area in any other way. So I see the economics don't seem to warrant the win-win. It's a win for them, but not much of a win for us. I thank you very much. Have a good day.
Fred, before you sit down, you sent me a very
I've sent you numerous emails.
a very eloquent email.
Yes.
Are you going to take the opportunity to provide written comments, or would you like me to take the email that you previously?
I think the email that I had sent to all the board members would be
I
sufficient.
will provide that for the record.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Karen Smith Spanier.
I reside Lakeview Avenue in the town of Ulster. And my understanding is I'm going to also be submitting comments, but I thought tonight we were just going to bring up things that we want it to be noted that we're going to have looked at. One of them is, I have a question as to potential impact from the EMF, the electromagnetic field of the substation. I have no idea. I just know that people are affected by, all living creatures are affected by electromagnetic fields, and the fact that this is going to be a peaker station that is going to be dealing with a generation of tremendous amounts of electricity, the question occurs to me, is that something we need to look into? And then also, like Mr. Neeson was saying, will there be some sort of a real demonstration of the financial impact on the property ownership, like in numbers? And will there be some potential for accountability to these people? Because, yeah, it's clear that this is going to be a situation where they're not going to be able to sell their homes if they want to. It's not going to happen. And then also, I think it would be helpful to hear about a real demonstration from the town of Ulster about the financial benefit that the town gets from a private company buying a business. And what does the town of Ulster get from that kind of a project? And potentially, since this is also dealing with alternatives, what kind of a possibility would there be for the town of Ulster actually, since this is such a lucrative, apparently, project that people are coming all the way from Chicago to reap these benefits, well, why the heck can't the town of Ulster put together a project that is dealing with renewables, which I've been hearing. Solar, right? I mean, anything, battery powered.
That would be progressive.
That would actually, what would be the
Innovative
financial
leadership.
impact of that project owned by a town of Ulster and to the community? I think that could be helpful.
That would be a,
To look at the numbers
That would be
from
heroic.
what we get as taxes from a business as opposed to being business owners of something that would actually be acceptable to people in terms of renewable energy towns. Thank you.
excellent.
Thank you. Ryan?
Hello, I'm Brian Cahill. I live at 1106 Deadwood Street in the town of Ulster here. Been a town resident for 35 years. Just a couple of quick questions on the Chasen Group's assessment under planning and zoning. There's a question about asking if this parcel is part of a comprehensive plan, if it's impacted by a comprehensive plan, and it asks if there's specific site use designated in the town's comprehensive plan for that parcel, and it's checked no. And I was just wondering if we could verify that and get an answer on that, because it seems kind of unusual that a parcel of that size wouldn't be designated for some type of development or another with a comprehensive plan. And my second question is, this is a peak, quote unquote, peak use plan. And that has an inference that it won't be used all the time. However, they request to be running 24/7, right? And at some point here, I think the question has to be asked is, what are the number of days out of 365 that they do plan on running this plant? I mean, is it 10, or is it 250, or is it 365? Because that has a big difference in how it will impact our community, depending on what they're using. I mean, they sell it as a peak use plan, which gives you the idea, oh, it's not going to be running all the time, and we're not only going to use it when we absolutely have to. But how do we verify that? How do we know for sure that they're only using it when they absolutely have to, right? Or are there rules for that anyway? Or can they run it 24/7 and just sell the power back to the grid, right? I mean, we've had this before in the town of Ulster, where a plant was being proposed, a recycling plant it was actually a power plant under the guise of a recycling plant, where the guy was going to build a power plant and sell it back to the grid and use the recycling plant as the cover. And I think this is a similar thing. I think they're using the peak power as a cover to generate electricity to sell back to the grid for profit. Those are my two questions. Thank you.
And will you be submitting written?
I'll send you an email to the
Thanks.
address. Thanks.
Are there any other individuals who wish to speak, as that completes the sign-up sheets? Motion to close?
So moved.
Can I speak if I sign up? Which I have a slip.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Sue McConaughey, and I live at 238 Risley Street. I am on the street that runs horizontal to the project being proposed. I will be submitting questions for the seeker review. However, there's one subject that has not been brought up tonight, and it disturbs me. I live in the front yard of one of the most beautiful areas. We have bear, we have deer, we have rabbits, we have snakes, we have bats, we have some of the most beautiful creatures that you can imagine, and they're there, and the balance of the ecology is wonderful. If we have a project that has lights on 24 hours a day, we will have no nocturnal creatures. They'll be gone. And once they're gone, ecological balance is lost. We will not need a green area because there'll be no animals living there. We'll have rodents that carry ticks. That's all we'll have. So that is a concern of mine I would like to see addressed, and that is how they will preserve the balance when they produce effects that are deterrent to the natural life who lives there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. One more?
My name is Valeria Georgia. I'm an attorney with an office in Kingston, and I live in Cohasset, New York. And I just wanted to address the question of the cumulative impact analysis. I think it should extend beyond the town of Ulster to incorporate the entire region, considering such other natural gas facilities as Cricket Valley and CBV, to consider the impact of the increased climate change emissions, carbon emissions, regionally. And I also think that property tax considerations should include whether Glide Path plans to apply for any property tax exemptions, and given that they'll only be developing a 4-acre portion of those lots, considering, just requesting that they also conduct an analysis as to the loss of property taxes from lowered community character and assessments of the properties. And just to add that in the future, the town of Ulster may be facing several tax or surety claims for reassessments of their properties as a result of this development and the pollution.
Anyone else? Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Wayne Spanier. I live on Lakeview Avenue in Kingston. Another important point I think about this plant is that if it's going to be running on natural gas, this is fracked gas.
Right.
And we've wisely decided not to frack gas in our communities. But if we run a plant here that's operating on fracked gas, that means somebody's community is suffering because they're doing hydrofracking. So I don't see why that shouldn't be also our responsibility.
That's right.
That we're going to displace it. We don't want fracking, but it's okay if they frack somewhere else to run this power plant. So I think we shouldn't be encouraging that because we don't accept it for ourselves or for our families. Why should someone else suffer with it?
So your specific request for the EIS is?
I guess I'd like an assessment of the impact, the sources and the communities and the impact of where their fracked gas is coming from. And that that's of concern to us as well. Not just what happens to our community, but what happens to the communities that are being fracked to supply our generators.
Very good. Anybody else? John?
Motion to close the scoping session.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take the opportunity to thank you. Tonight, the decorum in this room was much better than the decorum in the first meeting where we weren't able to communicate. I want to thank you very much, Laura, for the organization that you put into the process here. It does reflect greatly on the community that the questions tonight were pointed, they were direct on the issues, and they didn't go wide off topic. I would like to also extend an invitation to you. The town of Ulster has an application pending in front of the town planning board for 3 solar farms consisting of clear cutting 60 acres of land on the south side of the town off of Route 32. I intend on asking the town board to deck that process also. We will be going through a public scoping session for that project. I encourage you to come and share your feelings on that project also, just like you've done tonight. You've made some very good points. I think they are germane to everything we do in this town, not just this power plant. It's the solar development, it's the redevelopment of IBM. What I'm hearing is you don't want more carbon. I get it. Thank you. I have a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.